Okay, whether you've been, been through a divorce or you know somebody who has, it's never easy for anybody involved. And instead of dwelling on the past, a lot of women are doing something interesting. They're embracing their brand new future.
Sure, and they're doing it in a very unique way. Take a look. They mark the end of one chapter, but more importantly, the beginning of another. We're talking divorce parties, and women are throwing them.
My name is Bree Sellers, and I recently divorced. My divorce party, I had just a simple little house party. I bought a fictitious dress, and I hung it up outside so that when my friends came, they could paint on it. These are powerful messages on something that symbolized what once was.
So you can tell that we are in a post-biblical society. We see the signs all around us, especially in the culture. The latest sign is that women are now having divorce parties. Yeah, they're having parties to celebrate their divorce. A divorce is not something that should be celebrated. I think the rise in no-fault divorces and the way that people can easily end their marriages has done harm to society because it harms children. As a product of divorce, I know how children feel when you're not brought up in a home with a mother and a father. And that is the reason why our society is failing in so many ways. Too many children, especially in the Black community, are being brought up in single-parent households. People think they know better than God. But God says, a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and there shall be one flesh. See, when you get married, you're one. Okay, you're one flesh, you're one body. And when you have divorce, you're ripping that apart. You're tearing that apart. It's a covenant. But see, people don't understand what marriage really means. See, in this Western world, in America, people are brought up to learn how to divorce. All this dating scenario, you're practicing divorce, breaking up, getting with somebody else, breaking up and getting with somebody else. You're just practicing divorce. You're practicing what you're going to do once you get older. That's why it's so easy for people to divorce when they're older. They've built up that habit. They have a habit of leaving their marriages when it gets tough. They have a habit of leaving their marriages when things don't go the way they want. When their spouse or their husband is not meeting all their needs. People are being selfish. It's selfishness that leads to divorces by and large because people are not willing to work it out, not willing to compromise, not willing to lay down your life, not willing to sacrifice your needs for the needs of your spouse.
Okay, whether you've been, been through a divorce or you know somebody who has.
That is weird. Why are they coming back laughing when they're about to talk about a segment dealing with divorce?
It's never easy for anybody involved. And instead of dwelling on the past, a lot of women are doing something interesting. They're embracing their brand new future.
Sure, and they're doing it in a very unique way. Take a look. They mark the end of one chapter, but more importantly, the beginning of another. We're talking divorce parties, and women are throwing them.
My name is Bree Sellers, and I recently divorced. My divorce party, I had just a simple little house party. I bought a fictitious dress, and I hung it up outside so that when my friends came.
Look at that. The wedding dress is supposed to symbolize purity, supposed to symbolize the bride of Christ. And this woman is holding it up so people can write on it to symbolize the death of her marriage.
They could paint on it. These are powerful messages on something that symbolized what once was. It's such a beautiful light because they're there for me.
You know what I see? I see straight up selfishness. I see what has happened after the sexual revolution and after this third wave of feminism where women are now celebrating the dissolution of their marriage. Years ago, women wanted to get married, wanted to keep their marriages intact, wanted to fight for their families. Now we have women celebrating the destruction and the end of their marriages. And you see why a lot of men don't want to get married.
Not only for their party, but for the future.
My name is Nicole Sedona. My own experience with divorce was the most.
There's a lot of selfish women, boy. I tell you, feminism has produced a lot of selfish women.
Eye-opening. There's this roller coaster of freedom and grief that comes with a divorce.
Nicole celebrated her newfound freedom with a party of her own and purchased
Freedom. Newfound freedom? So you telling me that marriage is bondage then? If having a divorce is newfound freedom.
a dream car.
There's such relief when you get to the other side, and being able to embrace this new chapter, you have the ability to control what that looks like.
I'm Allison. I was married for 2 years and I'm now divorced for officially 1 year. Post-divorce, had a lot of loss of sense of self and confusion about who I was as life pushed me around a little bit. I didn't have any things happening to me in a lot of ways. And I just thought,
Because you broke covenant, you broke a spiritual union. That's why you're going through depression. You don't understand the spiritual ramifications of what you've done. You've broken a spiritual covenant. You've broken a covenant. You became one and you separated it. That's why Jesus said, what God has brought together, let no man put asunder. Too many people are ending their marriages. You shouldn't have got married in the first place. If you're trying to find a way out that easily. You're going to have challenges in marriage. You're going to have challenges. But you get in marriage because you understand it's a covenant and you don't have a get out of jail free card. You work through those challenges. You talk it out. You grow together as a couple. You don't separate and divorce at the sign of trouble. And I'm not talking about if you're being abused by somebody. That's something totally different. But I bet you these women weren't being abused. They just got tired of their marriages and wanted to get out.
it didn't have to be a shameful thing that I failed. I was just laughing there, and I thought nothing funnier than a divorce party. And so we had it in the city at my friend's apartment. I invited just a bunch of my close friends who had been there during the whole process, and kind of just had like a really fun funeral. And it was great. It just reminded me that like
A really fun funeral.
fun still exists.
In the end, or should we say the beginning, this is less about the party itself and really about women choosing to look ahead.
I don't think about it as celebrating divorce. I think about it as celebrating the ability to get through this really hard time in your life, but also a lot of freedom to make the decisions that I thought was right for.
So why do you think all these women are now pushing for reproductive freedom? Because they have been liberated through the sexual revolution and through feminism, but they don't understand. They've put themselves in bondage. See, when you do things like this, you're putting yourself in bondage. You think you're being liberated, but you're not. You're actually putting yourself more and more into bondage.
Children, and for me, I got married again, and then
Yeah, what about the children involved? Do they even think about that? What if your children see you celebrating the divorce? What are they going to think? Mommy never loved daddy? Was I a mistake? Was my family a sham? Was it a joke? Was it not real? What are the children going to think?
actually, that was very exciting.
That's when I started kind of finding peace as it happened, and it really wasn't because of this party. It kind of was like dominoes fell into place, and I think that was a catalyst of like me entered my new life.
With us now is Allison McWhite, whom you just saw in the piece, and Lane Florensheim, who wrote about the divorce parties for the Wall Street Journal. You guys, this is so interesting.
Yeah.
I know that
This is not interesting. This is sad. This is disturbing.
this party wasn't like anti-marriage, anti-men. It was just about a new beginning. Did you feel like it helped you find that?
Definitely. I think it just helped me get ownership of the experience again. Like I mentioned, it just felt like so much was happening without me saying it. And it was my first time getting a sense of control of the situation, I think. Telling the truth in a weird way, where I was kind of, you know, you forget it's happening to you. You don't want to admit it's happening to you. And the party kind of says, it's real, it's happening, it's in your face. And you kind of just have to own it.
Yeah.
And I think it just, again, it just brought me a lot of ownership to the experience.
That's so, it is interesting because I think a lot of times you find yourself that you've lost yourself. You think you found your other half, but really in reality, you didn't have a voice after that. And I get how that would be. And also, you're on this road and you think, well, I might as well just keep going because I'm on the road.
It's so easy to say something than it is to leave it. It's much harder to look at it and say, I was wrong and change your mind. And I think in a marriage, you're for so long making choices with somebody else, you forget to have your own in a way. You rely on their other half to lift you up. And then
Boy, that's a wrong view of marriage. That is the wrong view of marriage. That's a selfish view of marriage. First of all, you should never look to the other person to lift you up. You come to the table bringing what God has placed inside of you The other person comes to the table bringing what God has placed inside of them. And as a Christian, now I'm sure these people are not Christian, so it doesn't apply. So that premise, really, they've set themselves up for, unfortunately, having a divorce, having a marriage that doesn't work out. But in a Christian marriage, Jesus, the Lord, is the third cord, and that is what binds you together. And so you are bound together to that. You are one. See, you're not looking at it as a partnership. A marriage is not a partnership. A marriage is oneness, okay? When you get married, you're now one. It's not he has this, she has that. No, you're one. You're all together. Man, I hear a lot of brothers talking about their wives having separate bank accounts. What's up with that? You should all be one. You can't have anything separate.
You're out of it. There's so much choice in your face again. Like, do you really want this in your life? Do you want the blue shutters? Do you want any of these things?
You get to decide.
Yeah, you have to re-ask yourself all these questions, and it's really fun.
Lane, you've studied this topic, you've researched it for this piece.
And you're way out in front.
Yeah.
You were talking about this before this was trending.
For a year or something, researching it. First of all, how did you come to the topic and what did you learn about it by writing this article?
You know, I had a couple of friends who were talking about having divorce parties, and they didn't end up doing that, but it made me curious about the trend and curious about who was doing it. And the first time I kind of tried to research the article, I had a hard time finding subjects, but then, you know, over the months, I saw more people like Allison on TikTok and more people on Instagram. And I think it really is gaining popularity. And, you know, what I found was what some of the subjects just said right now is that it's not so much about, you know, bashing anyone or celebrating divorce, but it's about celebrating a new chapter and surrounding yourself with, you know, your most loved ones, your best friends, after you go through something emotionally exhausting and difficult.
But it is celebrating divorce. What do you think a party is? That is sad and disturbing. Divorce parties is now trending. You know what it is? It's one of these things that these elites, these college educated, more than likely, women who want to retain their bodily autonomy, who want to have their cake and eat it too, who want to live the city girl kind of lifestyle. That's what they want to do. They don't want to be wives. They don't want to be mothers by and large. They get tired of that. They're bored with that. So what do? They divorce. They break up their families. I've read plenty of stories about women who are just tired of their marriages, tired of their families, and they broke it up because they wanted to be single again. That's a result of feminism. That's a result of emasculating men. That's a result of not having a biblical worldview and not following the biblical order. And what happens is that you have a continued degradation in society, a continued descent into the abyss. And people wonder why our society is so messed up. Exhibit A, divorce parties.